love them or hate them. Few can deny the power of the wolf. As symbols of wilderness, we adore them. But like shadows, wolves also invade our nightmares as man-eaters and reckless killers. Somewhere between the fear and the romance lies the truth of the wolf. Creatures surviving the only way they can, one kill at a time. On Canada's east coast, wolves hunt one of the largest herds of caribou in the world. Because they're secretive and elusive, the challenge to biologists and camera crew alike is to find and study these caribou hunters in an immense and deadly landscape, all to uncover the truth about the wolves of Labrador. Canis lupus, the gray wolf. Once the most widespread carnivore in the world, habitat loss and relentless predator controls pushed wolves to a fraction of their former range, deep into wilderness areas. The wolf is gone from Japan, severely reduced in the Middle East, nearly exterminated in Western Europe. Today, over half of the world's remaining wolves are found in North America. But even here, in Mexico and the US, they've lost 95% of their range, as well as unique subspecies. The Mexican wolf clings to existence, while Alaska's Kenai Peninsula wolf, one of the world's largest, disappeared. As did the buffalo hunters, the wolves of the Great Plains. The Newfoundland wolf also went down the path to extinction. A large white animal, the Newfoundland wolf existed only on the island of Newfoundland. Its ancestors most likely came from nearby Labrador, following caribou to the island of Newfoundland. For thousands of years it survived, hunting caribou. But by 1930, when the island's caribou numbers dwindled, the Newfoundland wolf disappeared. While Newfoundland's caribou population faltered in the early 1900s, Labrador's has grown. Today, close to 1 million caribou wander throughout the region of Labrador, including the massive George River herd. And wherever these caribou roam, you will find the caribou hunters. The Labrador wolf. These wolves are one of the few intact populations of gray wolves left in the world, an important storehouse of unique wolf genes. Almost every corner of this vast territory is wolf country. From the boreal forest in the south to the endless barren lands in the north. While Labrador's isolation and inhospitable terrain helped preserve these wolves, they still encounter humans. To learn more about Labrador's wolves, biologists have begun a study to measure the wolves' effects on caribou.
Pick days when the conditions were pretty good with recent snow and good lighting conditions. We could actually pick up their tracks and follow the tracks until we came upon the animals themselves.
Yeah, you're right. This is very well. You ready? Yeah, let them get around here first. All right. Get me over top of them. So this one is going to do it. I think the bird is in. Good shot. Right in the arrows. Perfect.
Right hind foot.
Biologists Rob Otto and Rebecca Jeffrey gather information that reveals the condition of the animal.
29. All these wolves are almost exactly the same size. I think they've all been 29.
Holy hairy feet.
Look at the feet.
It's like the Grinch.
Wow. You can see how the toes are able to spread considerable distance. And that's how they're able to get around so effectively in the deep snow that we have here.
But look at that pair, eh?
Wow, look at the massive
Look at the old blunt
teeth.
bone critters. They're quite worn, really, Rob, look.
Yes, yeah.
This one's loose, actually. And it looks like she's missing the one next to it.
Ready? Yep. 1, 2, 3. It's not very big. 34. This is a VHF radio collar beacon. And we can follow this animal from an aircraft with a radio receiver on board. Certainly we're able to estimate the total range of the packs that these animals are associated with. And depending on the types of radios that are deployed, you're sometimes able to estimate predation rates. She's extremely healthy, it appears. By the looks of things, may be pregnant. And if that's the case, then we assume we'd have the alpha female of the pack, which is great, because if so, we may be able to find a den site and get some really interesting information from the animal.
Well, one of the reasons why we're studying wolves right now is because we're trying to get a more complete idea of predator-prey relationships in this area. There hasn't been a lot of research done recently on the wolves in Labrador, so it affords us an opportunity to really look at them in some detail. Hopefully we'll have the opportunity to put some more collars out on other members of the pack so we can continue keeping tabs on it and figuring out what part of the land they're using. One of the problems with doing telemetry from helicopters is that if they do happen to be in heavily wooded areas, we're not really able to get a good look, so we're not often able to gather a lot of information about them that way.
Telemetry from the air reveals an animal's location, but not the natural behavior of wolves. While the biologists continue their research from the air, our camera crew begins their own search for wolves on the ground. To gain a better understanding of the predator-prey dynamics, our crew will embark on a 3-year journey tracking wolves throughout Labrador. And there's only one sure way to find them: follow the caribou. In winter, the massive George River herd spends up to 6 months wandering the boreal forest and the edge of the tree line. Chances are, wherever there are caribou, there will be wolves. But following caribou won't be an easy task. Labrador's long, harsh winters take a certain kind of knowledge to survive, one earned through experience. This is a harsh land, but there are those who have Labrador in their soul. There's few better than guide Levi Nokosak to take our crew in search of wolves through the wilds of Labrador. This is his backyard. He knows the land and its creatures.
Well, animals are smarter. They have more sensitive smell, hearing than humans. But in my case, I've been deaf most of my life. So I can see distance rather than hear. But my father teach me how much he knows. He's also deaf, but he's highly skilled, and that's what I learned from him.
Born and raised in Hebron, an abandoned missionary town, it's out here where Levy feels most at home.
They can talk of their cities, their riches unfold, all the things they bought with their silver and gold, all the gold they have couldn't buy what I see. From high on the mountain of Okokomi, from high on the mountain of Okokomi.
Levy's exceptional observational skills and knowledge of the land will guide our crew in search of wolves. With only their snow machines and Levy's experience to rely on, our crew will spend 10 weeks searching the coastline for wolves at the edge of the frozen sea.
Most of the time I travel from Maine to Hebron, we just bump into polar bear. Nothing but polar bear place. It's access to open edge water, edge sea ice.
Levy takes the crew to a familiar area where he's seen wolves before. Hundreds of tiny islands lie scattered along the coast of Labrador. In winter, they are linked together by the ice. Here they find tracks leading out onto the frozen sea. As wolves can easily travel 50 kilometers in a single day, the challenge now is keeping up with them. The tracks eventually lead to a fresh kill, cleaned out and abandoned by the wolves.
It was easy kill. Just quite a little bit left over there yet.
The success of the pack lies clear, with new kills found almost daily. Their smaller cousins, the red fox and the Arctic fox, rely on old wolf kills to get them through the winter. While they rely on the scraps wolves leave behind, it's still dangerous to be a fox in wolf territory. A wise fox keeps its distance from Labrador's top dog. Levy is the first to spot a pack of wolves. He's seen them here before.
And this is a good spot. Every year they notice they come back next year and come back again next year, and they recognize the trail. It's a shortcut on the sea ice.
A subordinate wolf picks over the carcass, as they're usually the last to feed. Wolves are drawn to the coast, making most of their kills out in the open on the sea ice. Even the occasional seal falls prey to wolves. Still, it's difficult for wolves to hunt seals, as they're wary of any movement. While polar bears and seals thrive on the frozen sea, caribou use the ice as a bridge to nearby islands they can't reach in summer. Wolves patrol the edge of the sea ice, as they know caribou and seals are vulnerable out in the open. When the spring thaw slowly breaks winter's hold on the land, caribou lose their bridge to the islands. The growing light and warming days stir the caribou to renew their annual journey. Leaving the wintering grounds behind them, they head north, towards the great expanse of the Barren Lands. From wintering grounds in the south to the calving grounds in the north, the George River Herd's range spans 700,000 square kilometers, an area twice the size of Germany, and some of the most demanding terrain Labrador has to offer. Eventually, they will cross paths with wolves. In such a meager landscape, these wolves need to cover a large territory just to survive. Barren ground wolves have home ranges greater than 1,000 square kilometers, 10 times larger than gray wolves living in forests. These wolves are in their prime out here in the Barrens, where they're camouflaged to blend into their surroundings, virtually invisible until they move. No matter where they go, the George River Herd's constant companion trails behind them, a dark shadow threatening to strike. To follow the wolves and caribou over such an incredible expanse, our film crew will have to change their tactics. Fjords can stretch 100 kilometers inland, forcing caribou to use a single pass. Here the crew will set up camp. For generations, caribou have used this crossing, and it's been used by wolves for just as long. With the entire herd passing through, it's only a matter of time before the wolves will make their move. At the migration's peak, they will cross non-stop, day and night. Throughout the caribou's migration, they will encounter many packs of wolves. This is the only safe place to cross for kilometers around. When they take to the water, the wolf is in no position to follow. Like a funnel, the break in the canyon wall channels the entire herd through the valley. The bottleneck this crossing creates for the herd makes it easier for the wolves. As long as caribou file past, the wolves will always get another chance. Here, wolves have the advantage, hiding in the rocky terrain where they can ambush the caribou. The water brings safety to the caribou. They are as swift in water as they are on land. Hollow hairs keep them afloat, while their wide hooves act as paddles, making them strong swimmers. Even the calves take to it easily. In its first month of life, a calf may have already traveled 200 kilometers following its mother. The long journey proves too much for some. Exhausted, this calf can't take another step. Desperately, the cow urges the calf on, but it needs to rest. If these calves can't find their mothers, they'll either starve or come face to face with wolves. The drive to stay with the herd is strong and forces most cows to abandon the weakened calves to their fate. A calf's misfortune is a wolf's gain. Leaving the lost and weakened calves behind, the herd presses on. Throughout time, the strategy for the hunt remains the same. Use any means to get as close as possible before launching the attack. It seems the wolves don't need to hunt in packs here, as they're bound to find a victim they can take down on their own. Despite the success of these wolves, it's believed they don't have much of an effect on the George River caribou. The herd's numbers are simply too great. It will take weeks for tens of thousands of animals to move through the valley. Our film crew witnessed one of the most spectacular migrations in the natural world.
Our mighty rivers are some of the best. They flow from the north, the south, and the west. They're great dancing waters, so lovely to see. From high on the mountain of Okokomee, the tall Mealy Mountains off to the southwest, where the caribou roam and the ptarmigan
3 months have passed since biologist Rob Otto collared the wolves in Labrador and the pregnant alpha female. He's now following her radio signal, hoping to find a den. The signal grows stronger over an old burn site, where a forest fire raged 20 years ago.
Oh, here's one.
That one where?
Yeah, right off my side. Hiding in the tree there.
She looks, oh yeah, she's been walking around there for a bit, I'd say. So, she looks fine.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yep.
The alpha female is reluctant to leave the area. Rob suspects she has a den nearby and leaves the camera crew behind. This would be a good place for a den. The patchwork forest of new and old growth attracts a variety of prey, and the open areas are ideal for hunting. Wolves instinctively know where to den. This hillside of dry, sandy soil has good drainage and a perfect view of the forest, still recovering from the fire. At 2 months old, these pups can be left on their own much of the time now. Usually, at least one member of the pack watches over them. When they're this young, the pack is tied to the den. The hierarchy these pups establish now will remain with them for much of their life. The wolves have denned close to Labrador's military base, where fighter jets practice low-level flying.
Through collaring the animals in this pack, we're able to find out that they're using an area around 600 or 700 square kilometers, which we didn't know before. This spring, the alpha female had 6 pups, which is a really healthy size litter. It's probably indicative of the good conditions in the area. When the pups are really young, the parents will go out and they will do the hunting, and they gorge themselves and they'll bring the food back for the pups where they regurgitate it for them. And as the pups get older and are able to venture farther from the den, honing their own hunting techniques through playing with each other and just exploring their habitat.
Every few days, the alpha female leads her pups away from the den towards water or a nearby carcass. They're in training for when they'll abandon the den for good, freeing the pack to wander once again.
By the time the study's over, we'd like to have a better understanding of the predator-prey relationship and how each population's affecting the other within the area. And we haven't collected as much data as we'd like yet, so we'll probably keep these collars on for several years. So we're hoping to look at not only the wolves and the caribou, but also the moose in the area, and to see how they're all affecting each other and how they're all living together.
Rebecca and Rob's research also includes Labrador's endangered woodland caribou.
Right off your side.
Unlike the George River herd, which migrates widely, small herds of woodland caribou live in the forest year-round. Some herds have decreased to less than 150 members. In the last several decades, increasing numbers of forest fires have altered their habitat, opening up large areas of the forest. Perfect conditions for moose.
Yeah, she's a big moose.
Rob is finding that moose may be affecting the lives of woodland caribou.
There's another one.
It's only in the last 50 years moose began colonizing Labrador. They now offer wolves in this region an additional source of food. While full-grown moose are formidable opponents for wolves, woodland caribou may be more susceptible, allowing already low numbers to drop further. Their presence adds a new dimension to the predator-prey relationship he and Rebecca are trying to study. The information gathered from collaring moose leads them to suspect moose in southern Labrador have a detrimental effect on the endangered woodland caribou.
We wanted to determine whether or not the wolves in this area were having a large impact on some of the woodland caribou that we have in the region. And there is some degree of concern that there's more wolves in the area, and moose allowing them to remain in the area has an effect on the threatened woodland caribou populations. These wolves are able to exist in higher densities than they would be able to otherwise, and as a result, just more frequently come in contact with caribou. And oftentimes it appears they approach the group of caribou until they get very close to animals, probably near the tail end of the group. It's not very long after you start to see those sorts of track patterns that oftentimes you'll find the kill. They usually just tear the carcass open and eat in right through the hide. The teeth on the wolves are actually amazing. Of course, their canine teeth are exactly miniature steak knives, very efficient at tearing meat and other tissues. The adults will actually just gorge massive amounts of meat and carry it back to the pups, in fact, in their stomach.
Wolves simply do what's in their nature. The numbers of woodland caribou in Labrador declined mainly due to human overhunting. But wolves may now be keeping their numbers down, not allowing them to recover. But now the survival of one species hangs in the balance, as some of Labrador's woodland caribou herds face extinction. Biologist Rob Otto and his team continue tracking the animals radio-collared in Labrador.
There's one wolf here. So keep a visual if you can. And just standing there looking at us. There he goes again. Let's do one strip down here through the burn, see if we can cut any trail.
They just picked up a mortality signal from one of the collared wolves, meaning the collar hasn't moved in days. Rebecca Jeffrey finds the young female near Goose Bay's landfill site.
It became obvious as we were tracking her from the air that she was at the dump. Well, it looks like this is the female that we collared 2 years ago. She appears to have a snare around one of her feet. And this end here, it looks to me like it wasn't set on a large enough tree to secure her. And I think she pulled out and the snare remained on her foot. And she's had it there ever since. She's really quite skinny and thin. I would suspect she's had the snare on for some time and has just been feeding at the dump because she may have been unable to hunt. And I'm upset that she died in this way, because she may have been uncomfortable and hungry if she hadn't been able to hunt properly. But it is absolutely legal to trap wolf here in Labrador, and the furs sell quite well, I believe, internationally, and it's not uncommon at all. And this one just went wrong.
Even though wolves are still hunted and trapped in Labrador, Rob Otto doesn't fear for the wolves.
The future for wolves in Labrador, I think, is very secure. Labrador is a very isolated piece of country. There's lots of prey for wolves, and I don't think there's any danger of wolves in Labrador becoming reduced in numbers. I don't think it's possible just because of the remoteness of the land.
Attitudes towards wolves are also slowly changing in Labrador.
But I think we need them. We need them around to keep our caribou herds healthy.
The wolves of Labrador are one of the few intact populations of gray wolves left on Earth. Their survival may help protect the future of their species by maintaining the genetic diversity of wolves. Over time, studies such as the one taking place in Labrador will help us understand these unique predators and their effects on the wilderness around them. As long as caribou remain here, there will always be the caribou hunters, the wolves of Labrador.